Back when I got out of high school in 84, I had somebody ask me, what are my plans as far as what am I going to do for work? What field I'm going in? What industry? Or, what am I planning on doing with in my life as work wise? I said, I have no clue. And I figured the best way to figure out what I wanted is let it tell me by going out there and, in a way, testing the waters. Try a little of this, try a little of that, and see if I get the vibe, the feel that this is interesting. This is something that I can enjoy doing day in and day out for the next 20, 30 years. And I tried different things. Um, I tried delivering for, I think it was Domino's. I said I should be able to make a good chunk of money of delivering, and I get to ride around all night, especially on the weekends. I tried it for a little while. I'm like, this is not really something that I would be interested in doing all the time. It was fun at first. Um, then I was like, well, maybe be a salesman. I've seen others come to our door when I was still living at home trying to sell something. So I started looking for them kind of jobs. I ended up selling vacuum cleaners, Electrolux. I mean, back then, um, the top tier vacuum cleaner was going for over $1,000, and that was in 80, late part 84 or beginning of 85, I do believe. Imagine what it would be now. I hadn't even ever thought of looking it up and see if they even still a company or not. And if they are, what range of vacuum cleaners in price wise would they be now? I tried it for a few months. I think it's 6, 7 months. And I was dabbing into other things at the same time. The first job I really ever had was when I was in high school. I used to go cut grass in my neighborhood and outside of my neighborhood. I would say 3 to 5 miles from home. I used to take the lawnmower and attach the handle to the back part of the seat. I had a banana seat. If you don't know what that is on a bicycle, banana seat, look it up. And you'll see how it's designed. And on the back, it had that little bar where I took a little rope and tied to it and pulled it like a little trailer. And I can just go wherever I needed to. I just had to be cautious of where I pulled it because the wheels were not made to go over heavy grass or anything like that. So I pretty much had to stay on the side of the road. But it was easier to get around by pulling it. And I was doing real well on it. I mean, I was making 20 to 120 on a weekend cutting grass. And back in, around 80 to 84, $120 on a weekend for a kid, in the teens, that was a lot of money. And I liked doing the grass cutting. And I was thinking about opening up my own lawn maintenance. But I thought I like it's going to put me out in the heat, extreme heat, pushing the lawnmower and everything. I'm like, yeah, I saw the downfall on that, and I decided not to. And then I went for uh, indoor jobs, being a managers, assistant manager, crew leader, something that put me inside all day. And I tried jobs that put me behind a desk all day. I mean, I was taking all kinds of jobs. Even I think it was Sears or Beltberry. I can't remember which. I want to say it was Sears that had a place in the back around Christmas time where you can buy a gift, go shopping and buy a gift and bring it to the back, and they would wrap it. And I was the wrapper. I didn't like it. And I tried a few other things, and I mean, I was picking up all kinds of jobs just to keep busy. They had a plant out there in Regalwood, North Carolina. They call it the cleanup crew. When they need a certain area just need to be cleaned up, they hire people for temp work for maybe 6 months, and you just go in there and put your mask on, put your outfit on and everything, and just go in there and clean up. And I mean, that was some good money. They were paying $50 to $100 just to get you to show up, plus so much an hour. I can't remember. I think they were paying something like $18 an hour, and that was back in 80, late part 85, 86, I think it was. Um, but $100 just to show up and plus per hour, and you would get 6, 8 hours in, and an hour lunch. But that was only for like 6 months. But that's about the time that I started to realize I didn't want to work for anybody else because they told you when to come in, they told you when you had to leave, told you when you could take lunch, when you could take days off, when you get paid vacation. You have to work 1 or 2 years to get pay off. Um, when you're going to get a raise. I mean, it was just, I felt like a robot, and I just didn't like that feeling. And that's what I was feeling pretty much all the jobs that I had, and all the pressure. Oh, you haven't sold any vacuum cleaners in the last 2 weeks. And we got to get that changed. And I mean, just it keep pushing, 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 pushing. And then when you do sell one, the commission that you make is pocket change. I'm like, you want me to do all that so you make the big money and we get little pocket change for doing the footwork. I didn't like that. So I start to come to realize since I left of doing cutting grass when I was in junior high school and high school, I had control of the time that I did the work. I didn't have anybody breathing down my neck saying, "Oh, it's got to be done, got to be done, got to be done this afternoon." But none of that. It was nice and relaxing. It was hot work because it was in the middle of the summer, but I was in control of my time and my life of scheduling. So if I want to do something this Saturday, I just won't cut no grass for anybody. Oh, can you do it this weekend? Nope, I'm busy. I've already, whatever excuse. I'm not, didn't have to tell them that I want to do something else. Oh, I'm booked for the weekend. Okay, I'll get them next weekend. So I learned real quick that I didn't want to work for nobody else, regardless. but I didn't know what I wanted to get into that would be very profitable, but at the same time, I have control over my schedule. And my father and I was sitting on the porch, his porch, and we were talking about the heat. It was in the triple digits, I do believe, that day, or it's going to be in triple digits, the heat index in the next few days. He said, "Boy, hopefully everybody's air conditioning's working because they're gonna need it. And if it breaks down, boy, they're gonna have fun trying to get somebody to do it because not so many companies of in repair." And that's when he looked over at me. He said, "Well, that'd be a good place to start. Start your own heat and air company. You'd be able to set your own hours." He says, "Around here it'll definitely be in high demand, so you won't be short of work, even if it's during the summer or during the winter. People want their house nice and comfortable." And he says, "Well, we always have these cold snaps, freezing rain, and it gets nice and cold for like a week. People can't go nowhere, so they're going to be stuck in their house." And I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, heating and air would be a very lucrative, very demanding uh, profession that people are going to want. And usually, somebody wants something bad enough, they're going to pay the price and they wouldn't even think twice as long as they get what they want. So I sat down and figured out how I'm going to go about of doing that. So I started looking to work for other companies to get to know the industry. I worked for, let's see, Lewis and Son, um, Saucier Heat and Air, O'Brien Heat and Air. There's another one. Oh, what was that company? It was in the next county. It came Butler's Heating and Air, and I got into them different companies, and I also, after I got in there, I see that knowing electrical would be a benefit. So I started working at um, usually most of these jobs. It was pretty much part time. I worked for Gray's Electric, Hodges Electric, and a few others to learn how the ins and outs of electrical. And after a while, I think it was late part of '88, that's when I decided to start my own business, still working for the other companies, but kind of transition from one to the other. And I think it was like 91, 92 or something like that. I actually went and got my business name registered and stuff, all the legal stuff. And eventually I washed my hands and told all them to goodbye, and I started doing nothing but heating and air service. That's all I wanted was service and repair. I didn't want to stay at a place because when I was at doing desk job management, um, in a building, regardless if I'm behind a desk or just in a building all day, I didn't like it. I didn't want to stay at one place for a long time. So I didn't want to do install, no duct work or anything. I just didn't want it. So I got into repairs because I figured that's going to be in demand because if unit breaks down, somebody's going to be calling and saying, hey, can you fix my AC? And they don't want it fixed the next day because it's going to be hot all day. They want it fixed pretty much before they even called. And it turned out the way I thought it would. Very busy. And then it has its slowdowns between summer and winter, and between winter and summer, pretty much spring and fall, somewhere in between in there, it kind of slowed up and then it ramped back up. So that gave me 2 seasons of the year for me to do whatever I wanted, but every now and then I would still get a call. And other reasons why I wanted to work for myself is because I have days off when I want it, work the hours that I want to work. I clock in and clock out when I want to. If I want to do one call, if I want to go to somebody's house 10 o'clock and change out a motor and then call it a day, I could do that. I didn't have to worry about having a full day. I can take a day off. If it was my birthday, which I've never worked on my birthday, even when I worked for other companies, I didn't work on my birthday. I made that clear to them when I got hired. I said, I do not work on my birthday. Some of them didn't like it. I had one that says, if you don't show up, you're fired. I said, well, you want me to go ahead and turn all my hat in and my name tag and all? I can do that now. He said, no, we'll just wait for you to come in. I said, I'm not coming in on my birthday. And that was the last I heard anything about it. I didn't come in on my birthday. The day after I came in, it's like nothing ever happened. And I kept on working. I never worked on my birthday. I can take the longest lunch I want. I can go anywhere I want to eat. I can take vacations when I want to take a vacation. Usually it was spring or fall because that's a nice temperature. It wasn't blistering hot or freezing cold. Never had to miss any of my kids' not ball games because none of them got into any sports like basketball and baseball or anything like that, but they had other events that they get into. I never missed any events. If they had the event on a certain day, I put on the in my books that not to do any work that day. Never, like I said, never work on birthdays. And now when I was working for other people, my wife, my kids' birthdays, and all them, I worked on them days. Still took them out at night, but on my birthday, I never worked. No last minute BS is what I call it. Work all week, and then somewhere in between, and you get off 4 o'clock, and somewhere between 1 and 4, they'll put a note up next to the time clock that says everybody's mandatory to work tomorrow, Saturday. Never did. I refused to show up when they put it up there at the last minute. And they fussed at me. I'm like, if you want me to work Saturday, ask me before, you know, before Friday afternoon, because I already made my plans for the weekend and I'm not changing them just because you think I need to work on Saturday. I never showed up because that's the only way they did it is Friday afternoon, everybody's mandatory. I just didn't show up. Well, if you keep doing this, you will no longer be employed here. Fine, then I have more Saturdays off and Fridays and Tuesdays or whatever other days. Don't threaten me because it ain't going to work. I'm not showing up on Saturday. If you're going to fire me now. It's staying in control of your life. You don't let other people control what you do or what you cannot do. I was determined not to let other people control my life because I'm not going to live like a robot. And I never did. When, it's just like I was working at a fast food restaurant. And first day, where's your hat? What hat? Oh, it's mandatory you wear a hat. And I can stand there and I can see three people behind the person that's telling me to wear a hat because it's mandatory, not wearing a hat. And they're not managers. They're not crew. What was it? They were regular employees. They wasn't crew leaders or anything like that. Upper scale of work. They were just regular workers. I'm like, well, how about, don't worry about them. I'm like, if they're not wearing it, it's not mandatory. I'm not wearing it. Well, if you don't wear it, you can't work here. I hand the paperwork back to them and say, you have a nice day. I left. You're not going to sit there and pick people out that you're going to enforce your mandatory rules on, and others get a pass. Not how I live. I just don't let people get under my skin. I don't let people control me and what I do or don't do in my life. Because once they get you in that mindset, they're going to take control and take advantage of you. Be like a little puppet. I was not going to have it. So eventually, in around 1990, I done away with all that. I struggled for the first 5 years to keep afloat of the bills and everything else, but I'm glad I did because here I am, retired at 45, and I'm going to be 60 next year, and I'm in wonderful health, no aches and pains. Um, I got out early not only to have more time to enjoy life than working. Instead of working 80% of my life and enjoy 20%, I wanted to switch that around. I wanted to work 25, 30% and enjoy massive 70% of my life of doing what I want to do. It was hard work, but I had to discipline myself of saying no and take the consequences of me saying no. If I said no, I'm not going to wear a hat, well, you're fired. Fine, that's the consequences. Adios. And no more than them companies, all of them, no more than they were paying, would force me to work to 60, 65, 70, 75, maybe 80 years old before I can actually retire and try to enjoy my life for the 5, 10, maybe 12 years I will have left. But all the hard work I put in may make that very little mini amount of years that I would have left. I'd rather not work my fingers to the bone, still make a very good profit financially to the point where I can retire early. I mean, I even open up my own computer store, repair store. I even open up my own car audio installation business. I mean, I tried all kinds of industries and work fields until I found something that I knew I could make substantial amount of money in a very short period of time, putting in good 16, 20 hours a day, 6 days a week, so I can retire early. I was planning on retiring when it was in the late 80s, early 90s. I was planning on retiring somewhere between 45 and 50 is what my goal was. Then I had this right here happen around that time. And while I was there, I was thinking about like, well, this is a good opportunity just to transition from working to not working. Just get compensated for this BS that I'm falsely accused of, financially wise. So it will help me to get to my goal even faster. So when I got out 2012, after I sat there for 500 some days, never seen inside of the courtroom, just sat there. And when I got out, I turned the tables, got compensated for all the BS, wrote a book so I get compensated even more. And I worked maybe year and a half, 2 years max of trying to get back into the heat and air. And I always had in the back of my mind of, no, don't do this. Go ahead and reach your goal. You already put in all the hard work for 25, 30 years. And now you got a few extra bonuses because of all this. You're set to the point where you can achieve your goal right now. And it was between 45 and 50. I think I was like 46, but really I never done any work after I got out. I had maybe in the first year, I think I had 5 service calls, less than one a month. So that really wasn't work. So when I walked out of that place, I never worked again. I was more of trying to figure out how to liquidate my business. And I decided to just sell everything. Sold the customer list, sold all the equipment, and I wanted to travel. So when I sold the equipment, the one that brought the equipment, I packed it up in the car or the van. Actually, the one that brought the most, I packed it in. I've already traded in the van and got the RAV4, and I packed it up and drove and dropped it off to the one that actually purchased it all. So I started traveling like I wanted to, and I've been doing it ever since. But it was a lot of hard work. You cannot predict or change what's going to happen in your life, but you can always control what your life will be. You're always in control of your life. What happens in your life, that's something you can't change or predict or stop, but you can always stay in control. You can take whatever happens and use it to make your life path still end up where you want it at the end. And that's what I've done. I wanted to retire between 45 and 50, and I retired at 45. And now I got me hobbies. I picked up doing some internet, and that's a hobby. Because here I am sitting in my studio, and it's generating revenue for itself, and whatever little bit it does make, it goes into account for my kids to have. So that's a win-win situation there. So always stay in control of your life, regardless of what happens. If you lose your job, adapt to it as quick as possible to keep going. Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice. You have to get rid of some things. You have to downsize to be able to keep going. A lot of people not willing to give up things to keep their life going. And at the end, they lose everything. And that's not the way it should be. But if you're not willing to give up, you can give up whatever. Oh man, I don't want to give up this this 1955 Chevy. It's material things. Sell it to keep you going, so in the future you can purchase another one if you really want it that bad. Now, if it's something that a family member gave you, it makes it harder. But you got to think, what's the best thing to do? But thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing. And if you really like these videos, consider hitting that subscribe and hit the bell notification so you won't miss any of the content I put here on this channel or when I go live. And on this channel, I decided not to set a dedicated time and day of the week to go live. It's going to be random. I may be sitting at the park with family and I may put the phone onto the tripod or selfie stick or whatever, flip and hit the live button and talk for a little bit. And if you're not following and hit the bell notification, you won't be knowing about it until it's over with. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.